doing a lot of differentiation these days. Differentiated reading groups, leveled math groups. We're even differentiating lunch choices in the classroom. So please don't be mad when I say differentiated spelling groups. Don't worry. Today I'm here to share tips and tricks to make differentiating for your spellers easy and quick to implement in your classroom. I know it's one more thing to differentiate, but I promise it's going to make a huge difference for your spellers. Today's game. How many times will I say differentiated in this video? The first question is, why differentiate spelling? That's one more thing to add to that never-ending task list. Trust us, we know. I'm working on the same list right now, I promise. Differentiating spelling can be a really, really powerful tool and an important thing that you can implement in your classroom to support all of your spellers' needs. I like to think about my spellers' needs really similar to their writing needs. Everyone needs completely different things, and everyone has strengths in completely different areas. Spelling is a huge range of skills that our students need at every grade level. And it's really hard to meet all of those needs by working off of one prescribed list. It's even more challenging to meet those needs with one prescribed list that students are just working on at home and then coming into the room and taking that traditional spelling test with. That's why we believe using differentiated spelling instruction in your classroom can be really powerful to build strong habits in your spellers. The first way we're going to differentiate for our spellers is by using differentiated lists. Now, there's a lot of programs out there that want you to have every student working in a different list. I have 21 students and I do not have the time or patience for 21 spelling lists. But think about this. Have all of your students working on the same skill, but have them working on a list that matches their level. Everyone might be focusing on initial blends, but students who are ready for more challenging words will have longer words on their list. However, your students who are still working in the basics of a blend can work on a word list that has shorter words, so their energy is really just going to that blending sound at the beginning. By working on lists that are different for student needs but all focus on the same skill, you're going to be able to really cement those patterns for your spellers. And that's the goal in spelling instruction. We don't want our spellers to just learn to spell a long list of words. We want our students to understand and master spelling patterns. When students have mastered a pattern, that means they're going to be able to spell any word that's going to utilize that pattern. So the idea of a differentiated list is going to help you meet that goal. All of our students are working on the same spelling goal, but they can work on it at their own spelling level. To work with those differentiated lists, you're going to need a starting point. We love to use a spelling inventory to see what skills students have and what skills students need. Now, here at Not So Wimpy Teacher, you know we have to have a resource for this. Right now, we have an amazing third grade spelling curriculum. And part of that curriculum is the pre-assessment. It's quick, it's easy to implement, and it's going to give you a snapshot of what your spellers can do. And I love the snapshot that this inventory provides because it's really focused on the patterns that you're teaching. Instead of hitting a list of 25 words that covers every spelling pattern in the English language, our spelling inventories are designed to just show the spelling patterns that you're working on in those next few weeks of instruction. This means you can continue to give those inventories as you move through the curriculum, and then you can make changes within groups. When you're grouping students for lists, it's okay that it's flexible and fluid. Sometimes students master a skill really quickly, and maybe they're going to be ready to move up to the more challenging list that you're working with. Maybe students got really lucky on their pre-assessment and they really need to move down a step in terms of lists. That's okay. Use a spelling inventory to see where your spellers are and be flexible with that grouping. Nothing says they have to be in the same spelling group or on the same spelling word list all year long. We think the easiest way to differentiate for your spellers in your classroom is actually what you're doing in your activities with them. We believe that spelling deserves a place in your instruction and it deserves a place in your practice in the classroom. I love getting to practice spelling with my students because I can see and immediately correct spelling errors. When students are only working on a pattern at home, you're not actually there to intervene. So for example, rules that are considered pretty traditional in English, a lot of times students are going to come and say, oh, when two vowels go walking, the first one does the talking. That's only right about 40% of the time. And those are things that are great to address in the classrooms. To address those, we love using spelling activities. We want that practice to be fun and engaging, and those activities are a great place to differentiate. Our first tip to differentiate the activities is letting your students use different levels of support. So maybe we're working on our first task of the week with our spelling words. That task is going to match each individual list that students are working with. And for your students who need the support, let them use their resources. Let them use the journal page that you've created with them that highlights the pattern. Let them work with a partner. Using that support can be so helpful for your students who really need it. Another way to differentiate is to really look at the practice tasks that students are completing and think about ways you can modify that task to support their needs. Within our spelling curriculum, we do include a practice page for each week. And I love picking and choosing what my students are going to do on that practice page to really meet their needs. The practice page is always going to include tasks where they're identifying the spelling pattern, writing words with the spelling pattern, and then using those words in the context of a sentence. Some of my spellers are ready to do all of those tasks, and some of my spellers are really just working on identifying words in that pattern or writing words in that pattern. It's okay if not every kid does every part of the activity. Differentiate that activity to support your spellers. There's no point in them practicing to the point of frustration. We're trying to build that spelling strength. Another favorite within the third grade spelling curriculum that I love to do with my spellers is a task card rotation. Task cards are so much fun in any context, and students love them. Also, they are incredibly easy to modify for student needs. One way that we suggest doing this for your spellers is just giving them a set amount of time to work on the task cards. So instead of saying complete 20 cards, say you have 15 minutes. This means students will work at their own pace and you're going to get their strongest work because they're not rushed for time. It also is going to help you see who is really confident in their work. If someone finishes every task card and gets them all correct in that window of time, they really know what they're doing, as opposed to their friend who maybe only answered 3 cards in that amount of time. You know that student needs a little more help. Another way to differentiate task cards is to let students use their support or let students work with a partner. Let them take their journal around with them or let them carry their word list that really highlights that pattern they're focusing on with them as they work. There's nothing that says students have to be doing all of these tasks from memory. We want students to memorize the pattern and really master that understanding of that spelling pattern. They don't have to memorize a word list. Another way to differentiate for your spellers is to look at the assessment. Nothing says that you'll have to be working on the same style of assessment. It's all about meeting the speller's needs. If you're giving your students a traditional spelling test, let's think about ways we can support students on that spelling test. Are you calling it out to students and they're just writing a word from memory? Maybe students are having to use that word in the context of a sentence. Maybe students are having to identify a word within a sentence that uses the spelling pattern. Maybe they're having to make their own word that follows that same spelling pattern. Some of your spellers will be ready for those extension activities, while others might benefit from a recorded spelling test, where they can press the button to hear you say the word multiple times. Or an oral spelling test for those students who struggle with writing. Let them spell the word back to you out loud. For my students with IEPs, oftentimes I will let them spell the word out loud to me. I will write it for them and then give them the opportunity to make corrections based on what they see. All right, you thought I was done. Don't worry, it is time for rapid fire spelling tips. Any activity that can be done individually can be done with a partner, and that's okay. Student choice is powerful. Let them choose the activity that they're working on. Send home differentiated activities for them to do for homework with their spelling words. Let them choose activities that they enjoy and you're guaranteed to get better practice out of them. If your students are working within a differentiated list and it's still too much for them, shorten the list. Nothing says they have to have 25 spelling words. If you're a third grade teacher who is looking for more spelling resources, I have to share the third grade spelling curriculum. I know I said it has that spelling inventory, but it really has everything you need to teach third grade spelling. Not just administer third grade spelling tests, but to teach third grade spelling. Within the growing bundle that is currently posted over on our Teachers Pay Teachers, you'll see the link up in the cards and down in the description box. You're getting differentiated lists for weeks worth of instruction. You get 4 different lists, pre-assessments, homework activities, classroom practice activities, task cards, journal resources, everything you need to teach spelling to your third graders. Make sure you grab it if this is a resource you're interested in. I'm using it right now in my classroom, and I have to tell you, I love it. I don't know about you, but I am ready for the spelling bee, and I want to see down in the comments how many times I said differentiation in this video. Thank you guys so much for joining me, and I hope you have some ideas for how to differentiate that spelling instruction to meet your speller's needs. I know it is one more task on your plate, but I promise it's gonna make a huge difference for your spellers in the long run. The less red pen I can use to correct spelling, the happier I am. Thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, we hope you have a not so wimpy day.